At some point in this video, you will be handed a loaded gun and told to shoot a dog. The dog has slept on your bunk for 6 months. It knows your voice. Its tail is wagging. You do not know the gun is loaded with blanks. You will only find out if you pull the trigger. This is how Kingsman makes knights, and it is, genuinely, the least strange thing about them. Level 1. Recruit. There is a tailor shop on Savile Row that has existed since 1849. It has a fitting room. The fitting room has a mirror. The mirror opens into a tunnel. The tunnel connects to a private rail line that delivers you to a manor house that appears on no government record, no satellite image, no planning application filed in the last 107 years. 8 of you make the journey. 6 came from Oxford or Cambridge. 1 came from Sandhurst. You came from a council estate in Peckham. They notice immediately. You notice them noticing. Nobody says anything. This is already the first test. You have absolutely no idea. They show you a dormitory. They give you a bed. They tell you to sleep. At 2 a.m., the ceiling opens and 40,000 liters of water hit you like a performance review you completely forgot was happening. You have 90 seconds to find a way out. The door is locked. The windows are sealed. One candidate breaks a two-way mirror. Everyone swims through. Except one, a woman named Amelia. She doesn't make it. Merlin, the man with the clipboard and the facial expression of someone who finds human distress mildly logistical, tells you Amelia drowned because none of you thought to save her. You failed the first test. You didn't know it was a test. You thought the test was the water. It was not the water. You will find out what the test actually was. You will not enjoy the answer. The next morning, they give you a puppy. No explanation. You look at the puppy. The puppy looks at you. You name it. You immediately regret naming it. You name it anyway. This is a mistake everyone makes and nobody warns you about, which is you are beginning to understand very on brand for this organization. Somewhere in this manor, there is a round table. 9 seats. 1 has been empty for 3 months. Merlin mentioned it once, flatly, as though reading from a weather report for a country he plans to never visit. You do not know whose seat it was. You do not ask. You are starting to learn that the questions nobody answers here are always the ones that matter. Level 2. Trainee. Nobody gives you a syllabus. The training just begins. You learn to shoot. Pistol, rifle, suppressed, moving target, targets moving in patterns you are not permitted to describe. You learn to build a cover identity that survives 72 hours of interrogation by a man who has not blinked since the Major administration. You learn which knot on which collar signals that you cannot be trusted. You learn 14 ways to neutralize someone in a dining room using only the silverware. The training also covers surveillance, counter-surveillance, combat driving, advanced lockpicking, social engineering, and, for reasons nobody has ever explained or apparently thought needed explaining, ballroom dancing. You stop asking about the ballroom dancing around week 4. By week 8, you are quite good at it. This concerns you more than the surveillance training. They drop you from a plane at 30,000 feet. Mid-fall, you are told that one of you does not have a working parachute. You form a ring, you grab an ankle. The chute opens. Everyone had a working chute. They wanted to see who reached for someone else and who folded. 2 candidates froze. They are gone by morning. Beds stripped. Names not mentioned again. You are down to 4, then 3, then 2. Nobody tells you what happened to the others. You don't ask. You have spent 6 months drowning and jumping and fighting and bleeding and learning which fork belongs with which course. You have used this knowledge exactly once, and it was not for eating. And you have learned that questions without answers here are load-bearing. The building is held up by the things no one explains. The empty seat at the round table belonged to a man who sat in the highest chair, who heard a plan, who decided the plan made more sense than the organization. You still don't know his name. You still don't know the plan. You have a feeling both of those facts are about to become your problem. Level 3. Finalist. Merlin comes in alone. He places a pistol on the table. He places your puppy next to the pistol. Your puppy, the one you named on day 2. the one that chewed through your only non-regulation socks and appeared completely at peace with this decision. The one that has slept on the foot of your bunk for 6 months while you did things that puppies should not have to witness. He tells you to pick up the gun. He tells you to shoot the dog. You look at the dog. The dog looks at you. Its tail is wagging. Here is what is actually being tested. Not whether you will kill. Whether you will obey without question, without hesitation, without the luxury of understanding why. The gun is loaded with blanks. You do not know this. You will only know this if you pull the trigger. Pull the trigger, and you are Kingsman. Don't, and everything. The flooding, the free fall, the 72 hours without sleep, the man who doesn't blink, the ballroom dancing, the silverware, all of it disappears. You walk back through the tailor shop. The fitting room mirror closes behind you, permanently. They have tested you with water, height, sleep, pain, loneliness, the slow grinding weight of being watched every second by people who already know the answer. And now, they want to know if you will shoot the thing that loves you because a man with a clipboard told you to. From the next room, you hear a click, quiet, flat, like a door locking from the inside. You pick up the gun. You pull the trigger. The dog flinches at the noise and immediately tries to lick your hand, which is how you find out the gun was loaded with blanks. Merlin walks in. He looks at you. He looks at the dog. He closes his clipboard. He says, "Galahad. That's your name now. It belonged to someone who died. The seat was empty. You fill it." The other candidate is told the same thing in the next room. You are both knights. The dog is fine. The form is already filed. The form is always already filed. Level 4, Knight. They give you a code name. It belonged to a Kingsman agent who died in the field. The seat was empty. You fill it. There are 9 knights at any given time. Lancelot, Galahad, Percival, Tristan. Names drawn from a legend that got most of its details wrong, but got one thing exactly right. The round table is holographic. Absent agents attend from anywhere on Earth through glasses that look like reading glasses and cost more than a postgraduate degree and have never once been covered by expenses without a formal written justification. The table has operated since 1919. The chairs have been replaced 4 times. The agents considerably more often. Before your first mission, they take you to a room behind fitting room 3. The walls are lined with weaponry disguised as clothing. Oxford shoes with a retractable blade activated by clicking your heels together. Like a weaponized Dorothy, except nobody at this table has ever seen The Wizard of Oz, and you are not going to be the first to mention it. A signet ring that delivers 50,000 volts. A fountain pen that is a gun. A lighter that is a grenade. An umbrella that opens into a bulletproof shield, fires stun rounds, and can, in entirely normal circumstances, also be used as an umbrella. Oxfords, not brogues. This is not fashion advice. You will hear it for the rest of your life. It will mean more each time you hear it. Your first mission. A city you cannot name. A contact you are already beginning to forget. Information that prevents something that will never appear in any newspaper because the newspaper will correctly report that nothing happened. You fly home in economy class. The man in the seat next to you complains about the legroom for 45 uninterrupted minutes. You have just averted a geopolitical event. Your expense report is due by Friday. The pen in your breast pocket is a firearm. You say nothing. You order the chicken. The suit makes you invisible in exactly the rooms where visibility is dangerous. You are beginning to understand that the world has far more of those rooms than anyone tells you. Level 5, Senior Agent. 3 years, 11 confirmed solo missions, a favorite lounge chair in Zurich Airport. You file expense reports for ammunition the way a particularly disengaged accountant files receipts for office supplies, accurately, without looking up, with no discernible emotional investment in the outcome. Every room now. Door, window, vent, structural weak point, sight lines, threat assessment, exit sequence. You run all of this over dessert. You once neutralized a man with a corkscrew at a state dinner in Vienna between the 2nd and 3rd courses. Nobody at the table noticed. The sommelier asked if you'd like more wine. You said yes. Your annual performance review describes this as demonstrates composure under pressure. Your annual performance review is doing a lot of heavy lifting. Nobody tells you that the job follows you home in the pieces of yourself you can't put back. The cover identity has a flat. The flat has a sofa. You sit on the sofa and can't remember the last time you sat anywhere without calculating the fastest route to an exit. The name your mother gave you is in a file somewhere. The name you answer to belongs to a dead man, the agent whose seat you took, whose code name you wear, whose unfinished work you finish. Nobody asks how that sits. You stopped asking yourself around year 2. You have lost the name, the sleep, 3 candidates you trained beside who did not come back from missions you were not on, and a sense that the world operates the way it appears to operate. Then, last year, you find out Amelia didn't drown. Amelia works in Kingsman recruitment. She floods the dormitory every 6 months. She files the results under Candidate Assessment, Stage 1 Practical. The test at Level 1 was never whether you could find the exit. The test was whether any of you reached for someone who was going under. You grabbed an ankle. You sit with that for a while. The 1815 Napoleonic brandy in the cabinet is for toasting dead agents. You have tasted it 4 times now. Each time, the name belonged to someone who trained you. Level 6, Handler. You stop going into the field. You start sending other people. You sit in a room 22 feet underground, temperature controlled at 19 degrees, because Merlin decided 19 degrees is the optimal temperature for crisis management in 2003, and nobody has successfully argued otherwise since. And you talk agents through the worst moments of their lives through an earpiece the size of a grain of rice. You hear breathing, gunfire, the silence that means I am hiding, and the other silence that means the earpiece is on the floor next to someone who no longer needs it. You learn to tell these apart. You get very good at it. Your personnel file describes this skill as exceptional situational audio analysis. Your personnel file has never been in the field. You train the next generation. You flood the dormitory at 2 a.m. You watch them panic on a monitor. You remember panicking in that same water. You hand out puppies. You know exactly what the puppies are for. The form you file afterwards is called the Asset Disposition Report. It is 2 pages. It is reviewed quarterly. It has never been contested. You have filed 11 of them. That is the entire point of the form, not to record what happened, but to confirm that everyone involved found the outcome acceptable. You did not hesitate. Not once. Not with your own dog, not with any of the 11 forms. You think about this more than you expected to. An agent goes dark in Karachi. 17 minutes of silence. Then 30. Then 60. You file the report at 4 a.m. You pour the brandy at 4:07. You call the morning meeting at 8. The seat cannot stay empty for more than 72 hours before the structure starts to show it. This is the part of the video where you're thinking, this doesn't seem so bad. You have been wrong about this before. Level 7, Merlin. You are no longer a knight. You are the one who makes knights. You oversee technology, strategy, recruitment, a 400-page operational manual that was last read cover to cover in 1994, a budget that technically does not exist because the organization technically does not exist, and the complete psychological profile of every active field agent. Who drinks? Who hesitates? Who has stopped sleeping? Who is running their cover identity like it's their real life, and their real life like it's the cover? That last pattern has appeared in 6 files this year. You have noted it. You have not checked whether yours is one of them. You are in every agent's ear on every mission. When the plan falls apart, and the plan always falls apart somewhere between the 3rd page of the briefing and the 2nd body, you build a new plan from a basement while the agent builds one from whatever is in arm's reach. You have improvised solutions in 14 languages across 4 continents. You have been the last voice 11 agents heard. You carry all 11 names. That is the job. The job does not include a debrief for the person holding the earpiece. Merlin does not retire. Merlin does not get a codename from Legend. Merlin gets a clipboard, a terminal, and the institutional understanding that when the organization burns, and it has burned twice, in 1943 and once more recently. You are the one who walks into the ash and rebuilds. The emergency protocol is a bottle of bourbon in a safe at Berry Brothers and Rudd, a sealed letter with K on the wax, and the knowledge that 9 people will answer if you call. You are the most important person in the building. There will never be a film about you. You have made peace with this, largely. Level 8, Arthur. You sit at the head of the table. 9 seats, 9 code names, 9 people who once stood in a room with a gun and a dog and made a decision that determined everything after it. You assign the missions that put them there. You approve the operations. You attend the funerals, the real ones, in the basement, with the brandy, not the fictional ones in the civilian obituaries of people who were never quite who they said they were. The role looks like leadership. It is arithmetic. Which agent is expendable? Which operation justifies the cost? Which government needs to believe you do not exist? And which problem is cleaner if it disappears quietly? And which is cleaner still if it disappears loudly and someone else is blamed for it? You make these calculations at a mahogany table while drinking tea from a cup that dates to 1891 and costs more than most people's monthly salary. The arithmetic is older than the cup. The founders built Kingsman because they lost their sons in a war that should not have happened and decided the world needed people in very good suits making very quiet decisions in very small rooms. 100 years later, you sit in that room. You wear the suit. You make the decisions. Here is what you know that no one else at this table knows. The empty seat you inherited belonged to Chester King. Chester was Arthur for 11 years. Chester attended a briefing. Someone with a plan laid it out in this room at this table, from the same chair you are sitting in now. Chester listened. Chester thought about the organization, about the arithmetic, about all the quiet calculations, and concluded the plan made more sense than the alternative. Chester went rogue. Chester was removed. You do not know all the details of how. You sit in his chair, you drink from his cup. You read the same briefings he read, under the same institutional pressures, with the same 9 seats in front of you and the same arithmetic running underneath everything. The only question that matters, the one nobody in this building will ever ask you directly, is whether you can tell the difference between a decision and a surrender, and whether you will still know the day the plan on the table starts pointing somewhere you didn't expect. Somewhere in South London, a boy is holding a medal he doesn't understand yet. The number on the back connects to a tailor shop. The tailor shop connects to a tunnel. The tunnel connects to this table. In 6 months, he will be in a flooding room, reaching for a stranger in the dark. You already know his name. You already know he passes. You already know what you'll put in the form.